Folks, welcome. This is the Red Hook Town Board meeting of Wednesday, January 29th. Could I kindly ask you to join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And for the folks at home, if you'd be kind enough to pan to the big screen, we can go over the agenda for this evening. We start off with a continuation of public hearing related to local law D, now D3 proposed. It is our third or fourth public hearing on this matter. We'll take up that agenda item as the first thing. We don't intend to vote on local law D this evening, but we will be making progress and on that legislation. Okay, number two, we have a resolution to establish a date for a public hearing regarding the 2025 Community Development Block Grant application. As many of you know, we are seeking to consider, amongst other projects, possibly funding the sidewalk from Holy Cow that would go around and in between St. Margaret's back into Hannaford, so there'd be a continuous sidewalk here on the east side of Route 9. And so we'd like your input at the next meeting on either that project or any other ideas that you have for that grant application. And it'd probably be a good time to say, thankfully, the temporary freeze on federal funding related to grants lasted only 24 hours or so, because we do have a lot of federal grant projects, everything from ARPA money being used for the Tivoli Firehouse expansion to the bridge that we're replacing on Aspinwall. All of those projects have some federal component to it. Next up, we'll continue to discuss the intermunicipal agreement between the village and town for police services. This is an annual thing that we do. We're going to discuss also the Community Choice Aggregation Program, third round coming up this summer, and some of the parameters associated with that. Then we've got reorganization we'll be doing, and department, board, and committee reports. So with that being said, why don't I'll do two quick announcements and then we'll do our public hearing. First announcement, we have to say and thank, we have a retiree, one of our court clerks, Kathy Fell, who has been working here for 33 years, is retiring effective actually later this week. And we just want to take a moment and really thank her for her service. Public service is something that is incredibly rewarding in many ways, but for somebody to stick with it and do the job that she's done for over 3 decades, really is so commendable. You'll see signatures on the commendation, but we'd like to take a moment and just thank her for all her service. Next announcement is Dutchess County Transportation. They are initiating a safety action plan, and they want us to assist them in getting the word out. They want public input, ideas that you may have that could reduce some of the traffic safety risks in our community or other communities that you travel within. Suffice it to say, we just again in the last week lost somebody on Route 9G in a car accident. Okay, the Salk-Hill Watershed Community Meeting that was originally scheduled a couple of weeks ago at the Elmendorf is back on. They had a heating problem there at the Elmendorf. It's now February 5th at 7 p.m. and they are starting back up with their meetings for 2025. We don't have a free rabies vaccination clinic here this year. We have in the last couple of years, but the County Department of Health does have one down the road in Hyde Park, Saturday, February 15th. And you just need to be a resident of the county, and it's free. Otherwise, it's $10 per pet. With that being said, those are the announcements I have. Does anyone else have anything? Okay, let's jump right on in. Again, apologies, we're running a few minutes late due to technical difficulties. All right, Deanna, would you be kind enough to read the public hearing notice, please?
Notice of public hearing, Town of Red Hook. Please take notice that a public hearing will be held by the Town Board of the Town of Red Hook on Wednesday, January 29th, 2025 at 7:35 p.m. local time at the Town Hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York, to hear all interested persons on a proposed local law number D-3 proposed of 2024 entitled Local Law D-3 proposed of 2024, a local law updating and amending the town zoning law, has been submitted to the Town Board of the Town of Red Hook, the proposed local law. The Town Board has classified the action as a Type 1 action and declared its intent to serve as lead agency for the matter. All interested persons will be given an opportunity to be heard at said hearing. All reasonable accommodations will be made for persons with disabilities. In such a case, please notify the town clerk in advance. Please take further notice that copies of said proposed local law are available for review at the Town Hall, 7340 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York. By order of the Town Board of the Town of Red Hook, dated January 14th, 2025, Deanna Cochran, Town Clerk, Town of Red Hook.
Thank you very much, Deanna. This time I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, folks, who would like to speak on this matter? If you'd be kind enough just to come up to the microphone and state your name. No one? Okay.
I will.
Oh, Paula, would you like to?
Sure.
Sure.
I don't know if you've gone over this. I'm Paula Schoonmaker, and I'm the chair of the local waterfront advisory committee for the updating of our water revitalization plan, waterfront revitalization plan. And our committee, I don't know, have you gone through the history of this, of how, anyway,
No, I think it'd be helpful if you wanted to just briefly do that.
yeah, so we went over all the policies and uses along the waterfront, and we sort of got hung up there on the word, we were looking at the boat club and that area, but we felt that the next step towards a commercial business with rental slips for boats, and most importantly, possibly gas docks and stuff like that, would not be in the best interest of, it would be a commercial use in a residential area for starters. And secondly, we felt that the unique and very sensitive ecology of that stretch of the river was just too important to risk a commercial enterprise there. So, so we asked that the uses be amended to remove that one use,
Marinas.
the marina use.
Okay.
So we requested that the town board consider that. The boat club's been a great neighbor, and but we felt the next step was too much, so that's how that came about. So mostly ecological and business use in a residential area were the two things that we mostly zeroed in on. So that's that.
Thank you, Paul. We'll be discussing some aspects and some of the responses from the correspondence we received on that issue, those questions. We'll be doing that tonight. Anybody else want to speak on that? Okay, why don't we go ahead and let's jump right in, shall we, on local law D. We discussed and reviewed part 2, the impacts. We went through, let's do it once again quickly if we could. We did a full environmental assessment form. The proposed legislation deals in several areas, all related to zoning, impacts on land. This is not a development project, so there are no impacts. Geological, similarly, surface water. It's not a project once again. Groundwater, similarly, impact on flooding, same thing. Impacts on air, plants and animals, agricultural resources, aesthetic, no impacts anticipated. Obviously, it's not a project. Open space and recreation, critical environmental areas. We don't have any in our community, by the way. That's a technical term, a CEA. Impacts on transportation, same thing. Energy, noise, odor, and light. Presumably, it could be protective of the area against additional noise, odor, and light. I think you, Paula, you mentioned marinas. There's a lot of requirements to have a commercial marina. Typically, if you look at the ones in Kingston and Catskill, you'll see things like lighting and fuel pumps and so on and so forth. Human health, no anticipated impacts, consistent with community plans and with community character. There's a narrative about the local waterfront revitalization program and our determination of its consistency. We had our consultant review and prepare a consistency determination. The policies of the LWRP as they relate not only to the waterfront areas where it calls for massive recreation, which we see up and down the river at properties that have access to the river. I should mention also, as it relates to marinas, and I think we have in the narrative here, there's essentially only one or two properties where a marina would be allowed if it were to be created today, because there's a minimum and has been for many, many years of 5 acres. There's only one or two properties our consultant has reviewed along the river where you could do it, and those of you, and I see some boaters here in the room, know that it's very shallow along most of our coastal areas, and to have a true marina with larger boats would be difficult to have.
Robert?
Yeah.
Could I just note that when we looked at the LWRP draft last time you met, Ted had also prepared an addendum, which I think isn't in this packet, but I think it was in the last packet, that elaborated on what you just said.
You're talking about the description?
I'm talking about the addendum to the LWRP, the continuation sheet attached today.
Attachment A?
It's in the printed
Yes.
version.
To the LWRP.
Okay.
I'm just not, it may be out of order, but I'm just not seeing it in this packet. But it was in last week's packet, so I just want to make
I
sure
think
that
the
you are.
Yeah, the narrative is,
No,
It's attachment A, continuation sheet.
it's right after the LWRP.
here it is.
No.
No,
Nope.
thanks. I'll read attachment A since it's not on the big screen for you all.
And I just emailed it to you in case you wanted to try to pull it up, but
Okay, if we could do that, but I could also read it. It's probably, maybe don't want to read it all. Okay, we'll pull that up. Comments: marinas have been proposed for elimination in the district use of schedule. Boat clubs and docks and boat ramps are allowed by site plan and special use permit approvals from the planning board, and this is for new ones. Already existing boat clubs and boat ramps and boat docks are obviously grandfathered in. They are allowed within the waterfront conservation, limited development hamlet and hamlet business zoning districts. Not sure why they'd be allowed in a hamlet business. I don't believe there's waterfront in the business. A legacy thing that probably should be cleaned up in our code. Of the 4 districts, only the WC and I districts front on the Hudson River and are the only 2 zoning districts where access to the Hudson River is available due to the presence of the railroad and only 1 bridge crossing the railroad tracks on Barrytown Road in Barrytown. This narrow bridge provides the sole means of access to 6 residential dwellings, 2 estate buildings used as a museum, and the Red Hook Boat Club, except for one of the 2 parcels owned by Classical American Homes Preservation Trust and the Edgewater Estate, and which is located within the WC district. The remainder of the residential parcels west of the railroad tracks in the H district are 2.31 acres, 0.47 acres, 1.1 acres, 0.5 acres, 1.6 acres. The Red Hook Boat Club is sited on 2 parcels that are 1.3 and 1.03 acres in size. All of these parcels are located in the H zoning district. Within the H zoning district in Barrytown, according to the zoning laws district schedule of area and bulk regs, a minimum lot area of 5 acres is required for new uses, including marinas. This means that there are presently no parcels in existence within the H zoning district in Barrytown where a new marina could be established, including at the Red Hook Boat Club, a not-for-profit corporation. The second of the 2 parcels owned by Classical American Homes Preservation Trust, which is referred to here as Edgewater, formerly owned by Dick Jenrette. That's 11.6 acres in size and is the southernmost parcel located west of the railroad tracks in Barrytown. The LD district requires a minimum lot area of 10 acres for new uses, including marinas. It goes on to discuss Edgewater and the museum that currently is operating there, and describes the other properties alongside the waterfront there. For marinas, which are a commercial use to be considered for Red Hook's WRA, they must also be found to be potentially compatible with local planning objectives, and only Edgewater's 11.6 acres is compatible. The town comprehensive plan policies about business uses talk about locating them in Upper Red Hook and in and around the village of Red Hook. It talks about the ecology around the waterfront conservation area, and its use within the waterfront district. Goes on to talk about the historic hamlet. The use designation applies to the settlements in Upper Red Hook, and also in Barrytown, the traditional mix of residential, institutional, and other small scale. And I will put up for you all on the screen. That page, those remaining pages. And this way you can refer to them. We'll have them on the town's website as well. think that addresses the issue as it relates to marinas and pre-existing uses on the waterfront. As it relates to the wetlands, I did also want to, for the folks who are here related to the wetlands provision, as you know, about 10 months ago, we got wind that the state was changing, DEC was changing the regulations as it relates to freshwater wetlands. And we wanted to let everyone know that those changes would be forthcoming. We did what we always do, which is institute a temporary moratorium so people don't get caught in the middle of the old regs and the new regs. And so that has, the moratorium has expired and the new regs are out. We spoke about those at the last meeting. We do want to let you know, for those of you who have pre-existing lots, pre-existing developments, we want to make you aware of how DEC is handling those situations. And I'll put this up on the screen here for you. They have what's called a transition period. They don't want to use the term grandfathering, but essentially that is what it sounds like they are doing. There we go. There's a transition period that if you meet one of these three criteria, and we have both developments and individual parcels that do in fact meet these criteria, it either has a wetlands permit or a complete application in front of DEC, or it has a neg deck, what we refer to as a state environmental quality review determination for a type 1 or an unlisted action, or it has site plan approval by a municipality. So if those projects have one or more of those, there's a transition period where essentially you have a couple of years to get your project completed, underway, get your permits in. And so from now till 2027, 2028, and we would recommend that you be in touch with DEC so you fully understand how they plan to roll this out. But we thought it'd be important for those of you, since we did get some correspondence about development proposals for particular parcels and whether or not they would be, in essence, permitted to move forward. Okay, what else do we have? We're still waiting on the planning board to meet for a couple of meetings because they had nothing on their agenda in January. So we're still waiting on their LWRP consistency determination. So I think what we should consider is waiting until our next meeting to consider whether we would like to vote on the legislation as it stands. That would be the 11th. I would like to make just one clarification. Let me get to in the language of the law. Just in the definition, so it's clear or clearer. New York State Department of Environmental Conservation designated wetlands, including those adjacent land areas within 100 feet of delineated wetland or such larger adjacent land area as determined by New York State DEC pursuant to applicable New York State DEC regulations. federal wetlands regulated by United States Army Corps of Engineers. Presumably we'll still have those later this year. And any locally protected wetlands. So the changes would be just to make it clear, pursuant to applicable New York State DEC regulations in the definition. Can we work with that? Okay, so let's make that, add those 5 words, so it's clear to everybody. At this point, I don't think we should make a secret determination. Let's wait for the planning board, since they meet on Monday. We'll get their response to our referral. But I think we have considered all the comments. We've had a few months now. I think at this time, I think it'd be appropriate that we entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the matter. And I so move. Who would like to second that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Bill. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good. Folks, if you're here for local law D, we'll be back at it Tuesday, February 3rd at around the same time.
3rd or 11th?
11th, what did I say? 3rd. February 11th.
Same thing.
Thank you. Second Tuesday of the month. Okay. All right, moving right along, we've got our second item on the agenda, the Community Development Block Grant application. We discussed the sidewalk project. This is the same application that we applied for last year. We did not receive the monies. We weren't quite well enough on our way finishing up the work at St. Margaret's, but we're getting so close. I'm hopeful that this is an accessibility issue. This is the remaining tangent that separates us from safely getting to our town grocery store. It's approximately a $200,000 project to do the sidewalk to connect back there. For the folks at home, I don't know that we have the diagram tonight. Let's see, we might.
Can we ask you a question about this?
Anthony, in a second, let me see if I can get something up for you to
The map should be.
look at. All right. Okay, so this is the map of eligible areas. Just so the folks know, the blue area here is the eligible portion of our township where you can apply for community development block grants, because it's considered to have low mod income in that area. That's where St. Margaret's is, in that quadrant of the municipality.
No.
Here's the, what we're seeking your input on again, because we applied for this last year, is you'll notice that the sidewalk takes you to Holy Cow here, and then you're on your own, in essence. So we'd like to continue down here and then head easterly to Hannaford Drive, and then you'll notice there is a sidewalk here. So it would connect through. I think we'd want to have consider some lighting as well. Okay, Anthony, you had a question?
How are they gonna put a sidewalk there with that big amount of rock along that area? Right after St. Margaret's going south.
It's not on Route 9, Anthony. It's not on Route 9. I'm sorry if I didn't make that
Well, I
clear.
thought we were going on Route 9.
We're going on Route 9 just a certain amount of feet, then we're going alongside the St. Margaret's property. If you look up at the screen here, Anthony,
Sacred.
okay?
Goes
See this
behind.
orange line?
Yeah,
We're connecting to the sidewalk over here behind Hannaford.
oh, you're going on the side of St. Margaret's.
We're going on the side,
Okay, then behind Margaret's to Hannaford, okay.
right? The
Because I
sidewalk
know
is
that's a
already.
difficult area, I walk that a lot, and I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Perfect, okay.
Okay. All right, so folks, any other ideas you may have related to accessibility, removing some kind of barrier in our community? We would like to hear from you.
In this area.
Doesn't have to be in the area if it's,
Accessibility can be anywhere.
accessibility can be anywhere in the town.
What
We've done
kind
a
of
lot
lighting?
of, we've done a lot of projects in the rec park, we've done this town hall, we've made accessible everywhere from restrooms to push buttons to anything, anywhere that you think would be a worthy grant application to assist with accessibility.
You have a question?
What kind of lighting is the town,
We're not that far, Anthony. We'll get there. We'll get there when we get there. Right now, we're just soliciting ideas on whether to apply. Yeah. Okay. At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we entertain the resolution number
10.
10, setting a public hearing. We do need to send over a letter of intent by the 3rd, which is next week. Shall we include this project, send it over to get some response from the county in advance of making an application? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, resolution number 10, which is to have a public hearing regarding the 2025 CDBG application, and we are looking for your input. 7:35, shall we say? And I so move. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Jacob. All in favor? Aye. Moving right along. I don't think we got anywhere else on the annual police services agreement. We still have those couple of questions to be answered, so looks like we're gonna have to table this until the 11th. Haven't heard back from the mayor on it. Okay. Jewel, community choice aggregation. So folks, if you've been following along, you know that the town has done many renewable energy and clean energy projects, and we've enrolled in programs. Many of those programs have achieved the environmental goals, and or almost all of them have, I should say. And many of them have achieved financial savings. Some of them some of the time, some of them not. Our community choice aggregation program, not to be confused with the community solar. If you joined the community solar that was built behind the recycling center or the firehouse, if you joined that, you are now paying somewhere in the neighborhood of 55–60% of what everybody else is paying for electricity. That was built and put online in 2019 when energy prices were quite a bit lower. We were able to negotiate a really fantastic purchase price agreement, PPA, which has a 1.3% escalator. So you started out at a low number and you will finish what we anticipate is an incredibly low number. I quantify it as often as I get a chance to, is the average household, if they joined that program in 2019, saves each year more money than they pay us back in town taxes. It's been that big of a winner. We are in the process, we have already started our Cookingham West on the former mine. This is not on the farmland, despite what you may hear or read. It's just on the couple of acres that was mined back in the 30s and 40s, nearly a century ago, close to our rec park. And so we are putting a smaller community solar there. That program will offset both your supply and your delivery costs. And so because we've obtained grants, we are going to be able to construct it, and if the Inflation Reduction Act survives, we're going to have quite a bit of money taken off the construction with the rebates that have been authorized. And so we're going to be able to offer to more of our residents a community solar at a discounted price. The program is set up differently now by the Public Service Commission, but we think it'd still be attractive. And if you are interested, this is something that we anticipate will go online in the fall. So do shoot us an email and say, hey, I'd be interested in being put on a list to be contacted about once the construction is complete, because we are going to try to get subscribers in advance like we did with the other outfit there. The other program is what's called Community Choice Aggregation, which is that we have joined with a whole host of other neighboring communities to essentially procure by default renewable energy that we buy in bulk. If you recall, back in the 90s, the Public Service Commission authorized individuals to go out and to buy clean energy. They identified that utilities were a monopoly, that they both controlled the delivery and the supply. That was deregulated, but unfortunately it didn't give any of us purchasing power. So we weren't able to go out and get an alternative product like a renewable energy product at a reasonable rate. So authorization happened several years ago for community choice aggregation. If you think of it as like a buying club, like what Costco can do, they have tremendous buying power. So joining together, municipalities can enroll their members, their residents, into this program. We stand in the shoes, if you will, of the utility, which determines which energy they're going to procure, whether it's clean or dirty and how much it is. We can stand in those shoes, but we do have to let you know. We do have to go out and join with these municipalities and do what in essence is a public bid and tell you what that pricing would be. It's a fixed rate for a certain period of time. The first two programs that we enrolled, it was not only better for the environment, but it was better for your pocketbook. This last time, because of pricing being up, it was more expensive to do the CCA, and I think I even included that in a correspondence to you all, that I anticipated that it might be more expensive. On that third contract, we're now at the point where we're deciding whether or not we're going to join with the fourth contract and taking a look at energy pricing. Just recognize it's not the same product. You will be, if we decide that we're going to move ahead with this, you as the individual homeowner will decide if you want to stay in or opt out. You will have price protection, if you will, because you'll have a fixed price, but you pay extra for having that fixed price because you're not going to get the variability that you would see on your Central Hudson bill. One of the advantages of having that fixed price is when Central Hudson bills you for your energy supply, you don't know what you're paying until they've actually billed you for it. So that rate could be low, it could be high. Historically, it's been
bill?
all up, or when they bill, right?
When do they build?
When do they bill? Well, that's the other thing, is that there's a transition to monthly readings, and so the billings should be coming on a monthly basis. But yeah, if you have
Yearly would be nice.
anything related to billing, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if you have anything related to billing, please shoot me an email. I'm actually going to be in a meeting with the CEO next week of Central Hudson. I'd be happy to convey any problems that folks are still having.
Hey, I'm fine with it.
Okay. So, that was a very long-winded description, but I wanted to make sure that everybody understood essentially the history of the program, and here's what we may be looking at. So what they do is they go out and they get what's called indicative pricing. Like, if nothing changes in the energy markets, and sometimes they move, I think they're a little lower over the last week. If nothing changes, here's what, if we decided to stay in, here's what it could look like, the various products for a 24-month contract. And so there are a couple rules and regulations about what they can charge, what are the outer limits. I won't get into all of that. But if we wanted to do a 100% New York State renewable product, if you were an individual, this number here, if you were to go on, for example, Central Hudson's website and look at green energy, and you wanted to do a 2-year contract, this is sort of the supply rate that you as an individual would get. Because you're in a buying group, up here, right, if we were to join with our fellow municipalities, we could get that same product for about 12 cents a kilowatt hour. 100% renewable New York State. The other, third option would be to look at a 50% renewable. So, and I don't want folks to get confused about this, 50% of it would be New York State renewable. The other 50% largely would also be renewable, but it would be out of the state. If you're following all the growth in renewable energy, there's lots of wind and solar happening in states like Texas, Oklahoma, and so there's additional capacity outside of New York State. Most of the renewable in New York State, by the way, is hydro. So you'll see that that's the source. Not necessarily the case in some of those other states that I mentioned. So we could offer as the default the 100%, the 50%. You could not enroll. This would be for the period starting in July. As compared to the last 12 months, which have been relatively low supply, it's just under 9 cents for Central Hudson. So this would mean that it's slightly above what the last 12 months have been for Central Hudson. But if we don't join, then they don't have the option of the 11 cents or the 12 cents. But they do have to, one of the downsides of the program is that the resident has to take that step to opt out. Much like they do when Central Hudson is supplying them, you have to take a step to opt out of that supply.
And the term for those two options is, are we looking at 24-month contract.
Yeah, so that's over here in this,
Right.
in this section here, 24, so it'll be a two-year contract.
A long time to commit.
It's a long time to commit, but you know, the people who signed up for community solar, they have 25, and they're not even committed to that, but now you have fixed price for 25 years. So that's why we say that that's really the preferred way. This is an interim option. You know, there are people that feel passionately about having the renewable energy supply them. There are people who like one of the things that in the second contract that people like so much, remember during the pandemic, we had this rather bizarre case where the energy futures went negative. The first time in history they went negative, and then they spiked up energy prices tremendously after the supply constraints tried to be worked out. And then the war broke out. You know the story. So having that fixed rate for that period worked out really well. Timing is everything with setting of the rates, yeah.
Quick question. Who made the decision that you have to opt out?
A New York State Public Service Commission.
They should have made it you opt in,
Yeah.
because tons of people.
You don't have the efficiencies of scale when you do that. People already have that option that they can opt into an individual program, but bidders can't bid if they don't have a sense of approximately how many people will remain in. And they historically know that it generally is around 60 to 70% of the residents decide to stay in.
Well, you probably know there were a ton of seniors when we went around that were annoyed that they had to have that project because they thought they'd have to opt into it. They never opted out, and they got stuck with that.
We make it as clear as
Yeah,
we can. We don't make these rules.
Now, I'm not blaming you guys, but there was a lot of controversy with that.
Okay.
So
So,
again,
yeah,
this is there's just a decision to make this available and to members of the public. If we join into this, then members of people who live in Red Hook can choose to participate, but they don't have to participate.
they don't. They have
And if
to opt out
if we don't
if they don't want to
join,
participate.
then they don't have that
Then
option.
they don't have that option. They would have to, they would be left with doing it on their own. So at a slightly higher rate.
Gary?
What are the boundaries within the town?
Yes.
Now, if you're just outside the town, yet your people are coming to Red Hook schools, they're not allowed. It has to be
Just town.
And the
just the
conflict-
town.
Just
Okay.
town.
For us, but we may be in a group of
There's 12
larger
municipalities
towns, right?
Mhm.
So
combined
it's just, but
together.
you have to, the town you live in has to join.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, can we, tonight, can we at least get to the point where we have a sense of what we might be interested in if we were to renew? I mean, I'm more inclined to go for the 50%, knowing that it's probably all 100% renewable, but 50% of it is from New York and 50% is not. Closes the gap, you know, gives it a more affordable rate. I think I would be more inclined to go with, provided it comes in at around 11 cents.
That's where I was leaning.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we should give people the option if they
Yeah.
want it, but again, try to get the most cost effective that we can get, so. So it's 50% renewable. So it's not
Don't
that
you
big a
want to wait
jump.
and see what this new administration does? They may decide you can't do this at all.
This is New York State run.
Yeah, but he's above New York State.
Well, yeah, it's New York State run. I don't see this being at risk, Ann, but thank you.
I hope.
And I don't think we're gonna make a decision tonight. I think we're gonna just try to narrow down what we're interested in.
When do we have to make a decision by?
Next meeting, for sure. We're not technically gonna be bound until the bids come in. And if the bids don't come in,
at a rate that we're interested in,
Yeah.
then we don't move
It's
forward.
not binding, but I think we do need to give them some indication. What do you all think about the rate? Julie, you're okay with the 50% as default this time? Bill?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, well, I'll convey that that's what we may be interested in, and let's see how things shake out. I mean, if energy pricing moves in our favor or against our favor, I think we need to be nimble enough to
Yeah.
rescue Julia. Okay. All right, moving on. Okay, agenda item number 5. We're gonna do some reorganization, and I'm just gonna have Julia start with, folks, well, she'll tell you about it as soon as she's able to stop coughing. But one of the many grants that we've received is one to update our comprehensive plan. A full comprehensive plan redo was done in the 90s. When we did the Centers in Green Space back in 2000, well, that was a process that probably started in 2006 and concluded with adoption of the new zoning in 2011 or 12. There was some amendments to the comprehensive plan. We received a grant, a smart growth grant for an update for the comprehensive plan. And Julia,
Hi. Yes.
you want to try talking? Maybe that'll help.
So, I didn't hear the first 3 words of your sentence, but,
Okay.
so this is in the context of the reorganization and thinking about town committees.
Okay.
I think everybody knows at this point that we got a grant of roughly $100,000 from the Department of State. So we are in the process of seeking a planning consultant. We've opened an RFP, we have bids back. We're in the process of selecting a firm who will help guide the town through that process, which is expected to take maybe 18 months, 18 to 24. Well, yeah, thank you. We'll also be establishing a volunteer committee. So basically it's a sort of a team effort between the town board, the professional planning consultant, and a committee of the town. And so as we're thinking about committees and how voluntary work for the town will happen in the next year or 2, I just wanted to put this committee description forward. I think we will at some point want a resolution establishing that committee. We won't have that tonight. I just wanted to get it in the mix. And as we begin to talk more publicly about this process, just wanted everyone to know that there is now a page on the website for the comprehensive plan update. So feel free to go to that. We can, so you could pull it up if you want to. We'll certainly send out a notify me in the next little while once things get more content on that page, and we look forward to keeping everybody up to date.
That's a good reminder that years ago we revised our website. You can sign up for notifications. Any topics you're interested in will be sent directly to your email or even text you just on the things that you're interested in. So you'll know as soon as everybody else does. Okay, so let's continue with reorg. We had our resolution at our first meeting. We're now looking at committees and let's do our appointments, shall we? There are no changes here as they relate to the appointments, except to say our animal control officer is no longer DCSPCA, so we should change that, Deanna, on our list. And with the retirement of Justice Court Clerk Catherine Fell, We have appointed Cindy Tice as the second court clerk. There are no changes to our consultants. No changes to supervisors' appointments. Do you have any changes to town clerk's appointment?
No, I do
Okay.
not.
Thank you. No changes to superintendent, highway superintendent appointments. Other town employees, officers, solid waste attendants. Patrick Jones is no longer, that's left over from last year. Deanna, if you would take that off the list, maintenance and groundskeeper, page 2.
Yep.
Okay.
I believe he's off mine now, but.
He's on, okay, fine. No changes.
Yeah, Alex is on the list now.
Yeah, Alex is a meter reader, we've got that, okay. I think we've got everything. Appointments are annual unless otherwise noted. All committee appointments must be residents or property owners. This has now been for 11 years. Meetings, no changes to meeting schedule. Organizational responsibility mileage, IRS mileage is now 70 cents per mile.
It's been updated as well at
Okay.
the last meeting.
Chain of command. Town departments, are we changing any of those, folks? Jacob? We changing any of those? No?
Unless you want me to.
No, I'm just throwing it out there. Okay, board and committee liaisons, so, any changes to those? Deanna, we're gonna have a list for 2025 of the committees that we'll be starting off with. As we've mentioned before, we do have a few committees that have been dormant. We have a few that we're reimagining, and we're gonna have a new mission, new charges. So here's what we've got for 2025. All right, just these committees, Deanna: agriculture and open space. Board of Assessment Review is a requirement, so is Board of Ethics, so is CPF. And then the next up on the list, Conservation Advisory Council, Design Review Hamlet, Disaster Preparedness is a requirement. Energy Committee is next, Greenway and Trails, Housing Committee. We'll still have the Local Waterfront Revitalization Plan Committee just for a little while longer as that gets finalized. Planning Board, obviously, Recreation Commission, Red Church Cemetery Committee. Next up, Tree Preservation, Water District Advisory Board, and Zoning Board of Appeals. So with that in mind, let's take up just
Trails Committee listed on here.
Greenway and Trails is called.
Oh, that's right, Greenway
That's why.
Trails, okay. Sorry.
No worries. Okay, so let's just, let's do a couple of reappointments, shall we, today? Agriculture and Open Space Advisory. I'd like to, we haven't heard back. On one of the members, but I'd like to make a motion that we reappoint Mary Ann Johnson as chair for the term ending in 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
We do have one vacancy on that committee, folks. I'd also like to make a motion that we reappoint Michael Robertson and Pete Hubble,
Second.
term ending in 2026. All right. Assessment Review Board, we have an opening there,
Do we vote?
and I would like to,
Do we vote on them individually, or are you just gonna do the nominations and then? Because we didn't vote on that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, Assessment Review Board, we just at this point need to reappoint Pete Hubble as chair. And I'd like to make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Community Preservation Fund Advisory Committee, I'd like to make a motion just for tonight that we reappoint Marianne to that as well. This is an ad hoc committee that meets when necessary.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That has a specific composition for the CPF. All right, next up, Conservation Advisory Council. So we need to do two things here. We have a vacancy. Our chair, well, let's make her our chair again. At this time, I'd like to make a motion. We reappoint Lori Euston as the chair of the Conservation Advisory Council. Is there a second?
Term ending in 2025?
Second.
Second.
2025, yes. All in favor?
Aye.
And she has met with and interviewed Jonathan O'Grady, and he has attended at least one meeting that I know of.
Yeah, he's been to a few.
He's been to a few, okay, and is recommending for inclusion. We have a vacancy. This would be a term ending in 2025. Who would like to make that motion, Jacob?
So moved.
Oh, well said.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, design review.
We want to list Anna Dolan as the...
Oh, yes, thank you. I had that on my notes. Thank you for a reminder. Anna Dolan is the secretary for the committee. I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Design Review Hamlet Committee. We do have a vacancy there as well. At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we reappoint Chris Gilbert, Emily Major, and reappoint Chris as the chair. These are 2-year appointments, so 2026 would be the term. For the chair, they're all annual. 2025 would be the ending. All in favor?
Second first.
Oh, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're at Energy Committee. At this point, I would like to make a motion that we reappoint Dennis Boulay as the chair of the Energy Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then for membership, it's Dennis, Jen, Lori, Paul Cadden-Zemansky, and Graham Miller. 2 years appointments ending in 2026. Who would like to move that?
So moved.
Thank you, Jacob. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, ethics, let's come back to ethics. Let's reappoint Brenda. We've had some changes there, right? We've had somebody move out of town. So we're gonna need to make some changes there. Let's come back to that at the next meeting.
Did you want to appoint Brenda now, though?
As the
Yeah,
chair.
I wanna reappoint Brenda.
Is that a motion?
Yep.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Greenway and trails, I think I'd like to come back to that. Christine, did we hear back from Lisa on that?
No.
Okay. Let's do a motion to reappoint Lisa, please, as the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, coming back to that. Housing,
Yeah, we've got a couple updates on housing. I don't know, I
Okay.
need to check, I think maybe we're good for now, we might want to revisit it at the next meeting. So they prefer to operate without a long-term chair right now. There's a vacancy in the chair position.
Oh,
It's a small group.
It's a small group, so
Group
they're
is still working
kind of
fine without
rotating
a
and working
formal-
fine in a more informal capacity.
Yeah.
Art's on the committee, he just
Okay.
does not choose to be reappointed as chair.
okay.
And I think that it's listed as 3 and 2 year appointments, and I think that was initially meant to be so that we'd have a little bit of a longer term, and now that we've reached sort of the 2 year, we're reappointing those people. I think we can do it as 2 year terms that are alternating between
I
the
think
2
that's
years.
fine.
So just 2 year appointments make sense to say at the
Okay.
top there, and
Okay.
whenever we make updates, we can.
Would you-
There are a few names to remove
Yeah.
from this list right now.
Okay.
So Audrey Unson and Hayden Sartoris are no longer on the committee,
Okay.
so we can remove them.
Yeah.
So did you want to move to reappoint Adrian, Trish?
Yeah,
and
Adrian and Trish for terms ending in 2026.
Yeah.
2026.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Julia, would
I'll
you
second.
like to
I
second?
would love to say.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Local waterfront revitalization plan. We don't have any members that are up, just the chair, Paula, who was here with us today. I'd like to make a motion, we reappoint.
So moved. Or that was a motion second, sorry.
Sometimes he asks.
I know. Okay.
Keep us awake.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Planning board. Okay, planning board. Where we've had some turnover over the years because of life situations and juggling all the things that folks juggle in their lives. The planning board has, a fair amount of work. Not necessarily as much as the town board, but they meet twice a month. They have to review a bunch of projects. It's a 7-member board. We have at the moment 5 members with 2 alternates. I did speak to Brent, one of our alternates, to ask when he's ready to become a permanent member. And he said, not yet, but when he retires from the state job. So that's a good sign. That would then give us 6 permanent members, but that does leave 1 vacancy, if that were to be the case. And so,
Is Karen still an alternate?
she is,
Okay.
yeah.
I wasn't sure if she'd removed herself.
She is. So we have 2 things to do tonight. We have to reappoint Sam Phelan as both a member and as the chair. So don't anybody tell him or remind him it's a 7-year term and that he's only been on the board for, speaking of 30 plus years, right? I mean, I think it has been that long, right?
Me and Gary
Not for
tell
Red Hook.
them,
I think
he's our
that,
neighbor.
I think he was right after the last,
12 for me,
or the
plus
first.
9, so it built 20-something anyway.
Yeah.
We're probably close to 30 years, yeah.
So, sorry, Sam, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to reappoint you as the chair of the planning board and as a member for a term ending in 2031. Nobody tell him he can stop before that.
Second.
Said the former chair of the
Exactly,
planning
right,
board.
yep.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Recreation Commission, Doug reports no changes for that. We have to reappoint him as a member and as a chair. We have to reappoint Shannon Miller. And who would like to make that motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Christine. Who would like to
I'll
second?
I'll second.
Thank you, William. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Red Church Cemetery Committee, we've got to come back to that one to see who's been active. That's another ad hoc committee. Tree preservation is the next one up. And there we have several reappointments, George and Kathy Michael, Kathy being the chair, Doug Trout, Karen Cataret, all need to be reappointed. I would add to that motion that we reappoint Kathy as the chair. These are for terms for the individuals of 2026. And I think I moved.
Second.
Thank you, Jacob. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Water District Water Board. Same thing there. We have Phil McDougall, Hank, and Ablin to be reappointed, and Hank is the chair. Which liaison to the Water Board would like to make that motion?
I will make that motion.
Thank you, William. Is there a second?
Also the vice chair?
Yeah. Jerry
Is
Gilmore.
Jerry as the vice chair?
Yeah, he.
You want to include that in the motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jacob. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Zoning Board of Appeals. I think they have a couple people.
It's just.
The alternates, I think they have a couple people they're going to be talking to about that, have expressed interest. So it's just Kate at this point, right?
And George.
And George as a member needs to be reappointed. Bill, you want to make that motion
I
then?
move that Kate be reappointed for a year as the chair and that George be reappointed in his term.
Okay.
So, second?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Okay, so that's it so far for the 2025 committees. We'll be looking to restart some of those, restart some others, reimagine some, and we would encourage you, no better way to get to know your neighbors and to know your community than volunteering on one of the committees and boards. If you're interested, please send an email to the town clerk's office. You're welcome to CC me as well, and it'll be distributed around. And then we put you in touch with whoever chairs those committees and boards to see if it's a good fit and if there's an opening as well. Okay, let's do some reports. Justice.
These are your own reports, right?
This is the yearly report. Did you want to report on that, William?
Sure. Never have before, but I'll do it this time.
It'd be good for you.
So, both Justices Thomas Mansfield and Lisa Laughlin are required to submit an annual report on the types of cases that they've handled, including the amounts of fines, civil fees, and surcharges. And Tom handled 367 traffic violations in the year. And as a reminder, it's not just the village police department, it's the state police and the county sheriffs that issue summonses. But if it happens in the town of Red Hook, that's where it gets adjudicated. The penal law is generally criminal law. He handled 25, and then there's an assortment of other individual types of cases like small claims and things of that nature. Total fines that were levied were almost $19,000, and the total amount of money was close to $32,000 for Tom. And for Lisa, she handled about 353 traffic summonses and 17 criminal cases. I guess she got stuck being the new judge. She got 6 small claims and 8 transportation, and she levied $19,000 in fines. And then the surcharges are usually charges, I should have said this before, are often surcharges that are mandatory by the state. For example, if you're going over a certain number of miles per hour, it's a mandatory $300 by the state. And the total that she was able to be responsible for was $32,431. And that is the court report for the year.
Thank you. And just a reminder for the folks, many years ago we went out to seek a grant on studying the merits of combining courts, the village and the town courts. We have, after patiently waiting, it looks like the village has concurred that it would make sense to dissolve their court and to combine it with ours. And so that'll be a process that cannot occur actually until the last term of the last justice of the village. So we're looking at a little less than 3 years from now, but that's okay. We have work to do to reconfigure where the court will be and the staff and so on and so forth. But something to look forward to, some more efficiencies in your local government. Okay, thanks for justice. On the other side, justice doesn't happen without the police report.
So for December, which is often a busy month because of the holidays and whatnot, they responded to 112 incidents in the town and another 24 in Tivoli, where they are also contracted to perform police services. They issued 33 tickets and they made 5 arrests. The report speaks for itself by category, and as usual, there are quite a few welfare checks and medical. They're often the first responders to a medical call. And welfare checks are a big part of their work as well. So, but it is self-explanatory, so I don't need to get into it. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention on the courts, the total dollars on each one of those judges, not all that money comes to Red Hook. So there's a certain amount of surcharges that go to the state, and then depending on certain circumstances, there may be some that goes to the county. We don't collect, we collect the money, but we have to remit a portion of it depending on the circumstances to the state or the county.
Right. And the shorthand of it is that we don't recoup enough money to offset the cost of having the courts. Okay, Recreation Director's report.
Okay. So this,
I will just say that I'm confident that it's not 2023, but I think they meant 2025.
yes, yeah, right.
Few things I know better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the report as of Monday, January 13th. So lest we all think that there's not much going on with the rec department, because up until recently we had a relatively snow-free winter. All of our parks, Rec Park East, West, and the new Cookingham Trails and the dog park are all seeing very heavy use. Still have to be garbage pickups. The mutt mitt dispensers are refilled regularly, but it's really nice to see that people are able to use those facilities. Lots of general repairs again and getting things ready for the, through the winter and into the spring. But a reminder from them, which they have mentioned earlier from John, is that they're inventorying equipment, and a lot of our equipment is well beyond its expected life, so that we probably have to, or they're going to give us some suggestions on replacing equipment soon. The winter program that we've set up for indoor pickleball, once again, I mean, it's even bigger than it was last year. We're up to 174 adults. It's closed to new participants because there's just not any more ways to fit more people in to play. But if you wanted to check it out, it's Monday through Fridays from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. At the former Eddie Parker Center. I'm not exactly sure what we call it now.
Well, they have to register first. I think it's important we don't.
Well, they can't play right now. They could just.
They can't go.
They can't be in the building without the waiver?
They can't go
okay.
unless they
Never
register.
mind. Okay.
State property, they need to have a waiver
Okay,
signed.
then you can't go, sorry. But if you wanted to observe pickleball to see how it works, but I guess you can't do that.
You're getting yourself in trouble for
Sorry.
They're full according to this.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, they're all full.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to take any more for this season.
Right, and so unfortunately, so we've had some requests to expand things in the summer for various summer programs, and those are going to be evaluated. And unfortunately, still seeing problems, people hanging out after hours in the parking lot and smashing bottles, alcoholic bottles and other bottles on the pavement rather than putting them in the garbage. You know they're not supposed to be anywhere doing that anyway, but, so that is a continuing problem.
Thank you, Christine. And I want to mention to the folks at home, we just put out our updated signage for the Cookingham Trails. Many of you are using them. For those of you who are sending me your selfies from the trails, thank you very much. It's heartwarming to see how much you're enjoying them. I want to remind you the trails are open in the winter time. So if you, like me, suffer through some cross-country skiing, which is really what it looks like when I'm cross-country skiing, you are welcome to use it for those purposes. There's a list on the signage of what all can be done. Just a reminder, no motorized vehicles on the trails themselves, and getting great use and great response.
Dogs on leashes.
Dogs on leashes,
It
don't
must be
forget.
leashed, and you have to pick up after your dog.
We've got mutt mitts, the garbage cans, we've got you all set up. Please, all we need is your cooperation.
There've been people out every time I go by, even
Yeah,
on the cold days.
There have
busy
been
there, yeah.
people using the trails, yeah. And as you may or may not recall, if you've been watching the meetings, we also got another grant to design the footbridge that'll go over the Salk Hill there to get you into Rec Park, so you'll be able to go in Abrams and go to Rec Park.
And that clearly the beginning works that we've been doing on the dog park are also bearing fruit, because that's getting a lot more use now too.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Water. What say you?
We had the meeting last week. It's all the standard metrics. But the good news is that our water is, again, free of any of the PFOs, which are highly... And we found out that, many municipalities in Dutchess County have it in small amounts, but we always come out at zero. So our aquifer is nice and clean, and we want to keep it that way. The other stuff is sort of ministerial. The only other thing, we're having the Water Board Advisory Board meeting, I think February the 5th or 6th, to continue the conversation which was discussed here about the tank and whether we paint it or replace it. And so next month, I'll have something to report, and we'll have the minutes hopefully of that meeting.
Okay. Very good. Who will speak for the trees, Jacob?
I'll speak for the commission. So at last week's meeting, there were a few items we discussed. It was a pretty brief meeting, but important things. So at the end of December, there were 3 trees that were taken down on Pitcher Lane. They were sugar maples that had been planted. They were in severe decline, really not doing so well. So the committee worked to remove those. The work was done, cleaned up by the end of the day. The plan for that location is to plant 4 or 5 native species this spring to replace those trees. So more information about that will be coming as those are selected and planted. Maybe jumping to number 4, thinking about the spring tree order. There's discussion there. In addition to those trees, the hope is to plant an additional 6 to 8 at Rec Park West, and then 1 in front of a private residence on Pitcher Lane. I think that's also replacing another tree that was damaged and removed. Committee there was a discussion about choosing native species, an idea to promote the local ecosystem, and that's one of the considerations the committee is going to be taking moving forward whenever that's appropriate. In addition to that, there was discussion of tree themed books for the Arbor Day poster contest at the school. Those have been purchased. Arbor Day celebration will be Saturday, April 26th. That'll be held here, Town Hall, it's not the building. And then the last bullet point here is something we talked about at last week's meeting about the Bluebird boxes on Cookingham West property. I haven't circled back to ask about citing for those, but I will before our next meeting.
Thank you, Jacob. I think that's all that we have for committee board reports, department reports.
Have a ZBA.
ZBA.
Oh,
here, but.
that
Yeah, it's
didn't,
not up on the screen.
didn't make it on the screen. Do you want to read? Somebody want to, you want to summarize it?
It was there. It was pretty routine ZBA. There were a few applications that were approved. One involved a variance for
A
reconstruction.
little louder, Bill.
I'm sorry.
Into the microphone so people can hear you.
It doesn't really work, I don't think, but
Yeah.
I'll speak louder.
Okay.
One involved some people who wanted to rebuild basically a barn slash garage on Yance Road in one of the oldest farms here. They needed a waiver on area variance, so they got that. And then the other one was, there's an application involving a former, is it like a paper or cardboard place over on Spring Lake Road?
Yeah, cardboard.
It was a cardboard factory.
Yeah.
It's been vacant for some time on 60-plus acres, and some people bought it, and they wanted to convert it something that is not within the ability to convert it to, and so the board on that one made it clear that they had many issues that some of them which are not overcomable, and so they said, "We'll come back or withdraw."
Or are they doing a use variance or?
It was unclear whether they're going to come back.
Oh,
or
I
not.
see. They didn't do an application.
No.
Okay.
But they were asking for something that the area is not zoned for, which is a use variance, which are very...
Always hard to get.
Always hard to get. So that's that.
Okay.
We didn't do public comment.
Yes, is there anyone from the public that
Still
would
here.
like to speak? Still here? It's after 9.
You know, I'll go around.
All you need to do is say your name.
Okay, my name is Don O'Shea. I'm a resident of Red Hook for 30-something years. Recently was the president of the Red Hook Public Library Board of Trustees. Two things. First, I want to commend the board on the local law D and your proceedings in that. Secondly, I want to recommend for the director's report for the indoor pickleball. And I'm not sure who to talk to, maybe it's Mr. Kuhn, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of people coming in, I don't want to be one of those local first, but a lot of people using the pickleball courts from out of town, Kingston and so forth.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if there's a way to prioritize local first. I can never seem to get on, you know. And I like to play pickleball.
And you're sure that's not related to your game?
No, not at all. Not at all. Now, I don't know if you can do that or if it's New York
Are
State
you-
property and that's not.
Are you
You
meaning
hit
during the winter program or?
The winter program, correct.
program.
The indoor at Eddie Parker.
Yeah,
Former Eddie Parker.
that's the challenge. It is a state property.
Mhm.
So in theory, all state taxpayers are subsidizing that property because it's a...
Even though we're
but-
providing the paper towels and all that.
No, it goes further than that. It's obviously not a tax property, and so it's the Red Hook taxpayers who are subsidizing that property more than anybody. I just don't know, and this is a question for council, I just don't know whether or not we can exclude folks from a state facility. That it sounds like a tricky question to ask, but I'll pose it and we'll see what we get back. Really what you all would like us to do is basically just cut down half the town and put pickleball courts on it, right? Isn't
No,
that true?
there's that.
Done?
There's that. No, the recreation department's doing a smashing job.
The never-ending thirst for pickleball.
Pickleball, it's a fad. It's a fad, just like computers.
It's a fad.
Just like computers.
Okay,
Anyway.
can I get that in writing so that,
And finally, the only other thing I want to recommend is, or mention,
yeah.
the developer of the Lakes Kill property. wrote a letter, I believe, to the town to ask a couple of members to recuse themselves, and I, obviously, as a voting member of Red Hook, am strongly against that. We voted for our town board, and we want our town board to represent us. And so the developer, I would be against any kind of recusal of our town board, and I speak for many in that regard. Okay. And then, you know, in the full interest of disclosure, I am a property owner very close to the Lakes Kill.
Okay.
Okay, and thank you.
Thank you, Don. Yeah, this is townwide legislation. The development you're referring to was approved back in 2015. We did receive that correspondence. We've asked the developer to provide us, because we can't see how they would be impacted by either our regulations or the new DEC regulations. We haven't been provided with that information that we requested. Yeah, whenever we do any townwide zoning, it impacts all of us. You know, I have DEC wetlands on my property as well that, you know, I'll be voting on in theory, impacting my own. But that's what happens when you sit up on a legislative board, is that oftentimes when you do something townwide, it impacts everybody in many different ways. So, but we do ask, and we did ask in this situation to try to get some more information. We've been provided with nothing, you know, at this point. So, okay, very good. Anything else? Any other public comments? Hearing none, I would now make a motion that we close tonight's meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Christine. All in favor? Aye. Good night, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Stay healthy.
I know you
And sane.
that. You're like, oh.
Yeah, quick.